Are you tired of the same old weekend routine, looking for something new and exciting?
Then get ready to rev your engines at Throttle and Swing, the ultimate entertainment destination at NOLA Motorsports Park.
That's right, we're talking an 80 configuration go-kart track that'll have you feeling like a pro racer.
But that's not all. We've also got a brand new 18-hole mini golf course and a state-of-the-art arcade.
Delicious craft pizza kitchen and a full bar. Think unique cocktails, gourmet coffee, and the perfect place to refuel after all the fun.
Plus, relax in our outdoor lawn area with the playground, live music stage, a huge television for watch parties, and free Wi-Fi too. It's perfect for work or play.
And if you're planning a party, Throttle and Swing can handle it. Any size gathering, we've got you covered.
So, what are you waiting for? Head over to NOLA Motorsports Park on the West Bank and experience the unparalleled excitement of Throttle and Swing.
Throttle and Swing at NOLA Motorsports Park. Get your adrenaline pumping. Chocolate lovers rejoice. Scandalous Chocolates has arrived in New York with 4 sensational new varieties.
That's right. They aren't just chocolates. They're an experience. Premium edibles crafted with the finest ingredients, blending sweet and savory sophistication.
We're talking 20 milligrams premium chocolate lips, sleekly packaged, perfect for on-the-go indulgence. Nuts, fruits, caramel, it's an affair you can take anywhere.
At just $10, it's an affordable luxury. Fair trade, single origin, gluten-free, and vegan. Find Scandalous Chocolates at quality dispensaries like Travel Agency in Gotham.
Scandalous Chocolates. When you're in New York, awaken your senses and delight your palate.
The affair you could take anywhere. Scandalous. Are you looking for a unique New Orleans experience?
Check out New Orleans artist Frenchie at FrenchieLive.com.
Featuring original artworks, prints, and more. See it all at www.frenchielive.com.
Live event bookings are available. The gallery is open by appointment only.
And for private showings or parties, email info@frenchielive.com.
Experience the art. Experience the artist. Frenchie Gallery. www.frenchielive.com.
Hey, Jay, you hungry? Like really hungry?
Yeah, I'm in the mood for oysters. Hey, let's check out Trenas.
Oysters? I love oysters.
Trenas features a wide variety of local oysters. Char, grilled, baked, and on the half shell, even the famous oyster log.
Oyster log? I heard about that. You get 6 each of their signature baked oysters, plus 6 fried, all on a cypress slab?
42 oysters. We are going to love it. Trenas is located in the Hotel Intercontinental, 444 St. Charles Avenue, right on the parade route.
Sweet. When can we go?
7 days a week for lunch and dinner, plus a mimosa brunch on weekends, and happy hour daily from 3 to 6.
Happy hour? Nah, you're talking my language.
Great drinks, great wine list. An award-winning chef, Matthew Farmer, leads a team serving the best seafood in New Orleans. Trenas.
Trenas. Got it. Let's go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everyone in New Orleans, Louisiana, and folks who can hear my voice, especially Shecky in France.
Walking, stepping down the street, y'all, talking, never know who you're gonna meet. Dancing, the groove feels so good to me. Singing, wow, yes indeed, y'all. Soulful living is all we know how to do. In the greatest place on earth, I'm talking about New Orleans, the greatest place I know. My hometown, the greatest place on earth. Yeah, yes indeed, y'all.
You know, welcome back to the Only Good Vibes News Network, and I want to make sure that people like Shecky can hear, so I want to give a little props out to our sponsors, and our sponsors is Only Good Vibes News is NOLA Motorsports Park on the West Bank, and also we have Scandalous Chocolates and Trenas, and Frenchie Live. Thank you to those guys for supporting us and being able to let us have this Only Good Vibes News Network. And, now today's guest is the one and only most trusted voice in music and journalism. Please welcome Mr. Keith Spera. Hooray!
Wow, the crowd goes wild. Crowd goes wild.
What's up, Keith? Hey, first of all, man, welcome back to New Orleans, bro. You was on a Big Easy cruise.
I was at sea.
In the middle of the Atlantic.
I was at sea, sir.
Yeah, so how, I mean, dude, is that, I can't wait. Some people were telling me about your, I saw it was blowing my mind with John Cleary, the little two move.
Oh, the little piece from the Pianorama show on the boat that they, the Big Easy Cruise posted it on their Facebook. Yeah, that show, we've done it all 3 years in the Big Easy Cruise. I've hosted it all 3 years, and basically the format is I bring out one piano player, we talk for a little bit about what they do, they play a song, we talk a little bit more, they do another song, then I bring out the next guy. So it's like 15 minutes with each person, then at the end, all four of them come out together and play on four keyboards.
Wow.
So the part you're talking about was Cleary. So this year's guests was John Cleary, John Papagrow, Oscar Rossignoli, who plays with John Boutte and leads his own thing, and Kyle Roussel, who plays with Preservation Hall and the Headhunters and also does his own thing. So Cleary, during his segment, I asked him, I said, what's the most New Orleans thing about the way you play? And he goes into this explanation of like the blues and the piano and New Orleans piano, and he kind of boiled it down this one little like lick that he does with his finger kind of sliding from one key to the other, which when you hear it, you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's very New Orleans. And it was really neat. So the audience loved it, and it was a big hit, and it was a lot of fun.
It was unbelievable, man. Like I was listening to it because I love listening to all sorts of music, first of all. It just has to be really good for me to love it. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Cajun or whatever it is. I just absolutely love music. But him doing those two things blows my mind, man. It really does. And, I failed to do this, but I'm going to do it right now. Typically, I'll burn Palo Santos, and then I pull these two cards, right? These are Zen cards is what they call. And I do this often on the show because it just sets the mood. And a lot of times the cards work with whatever goes on because I do it daily. I look at it as like my daily armor. Whenever I wake up, I understand that your highest part of meditation for us is when we're sleeping. It's called Thea. And then we have the alpha state, right? When you go to bed and when you wake up. So when I wake up, the alpha state for me is like as soon as your eyes open, I have a stressful job sometimes. So I want to make sure that I get myself prepared to go into that situation. Yep. So I always count backwards from 100 to 1. And then I put in these positive reinforcements and things to be thankful for. And then all of a sudden I send out love for 3 people who really irritate the shit out of me. You know what I mean? And then I meditate. I just don't do anything because it's really difficult for me not to think about anything. And, it's like a restorative yoga class is really good because it's like, you can't, what am I cooking tonight? It's very difficult for me. So I do that. And then I come down here and I burn Palo Santos and sage. And then I pull these cards while I'm doing that. And the cards that we pulled today, the first one is right thought. So the right thought it basically has a little word on the front and has a little reading on the back. And then the first thing it says on here is you are what you think. Think it today, become it tomorrow. Nothing can help you or hurt you as much as your own thoughts you carry in your head, which is true. And I mean, it just helps you. Like, so if I'm going through something and I'll be like, man, where there was a Dr. B was on here and he talks about ants. Ants are automatic negative thoughts. Like we have those. We just do. Everybody, they're just overwhelming. So when you have automatic negative thoughts and you start thinking, I can't think like that. So like this goes into play almost every day.
Okay.
And then
all right,
renunciation, right? And so
renunciation, is that, what does it say? Renunciation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it says, each day, accept everything that comes to you as a gift. And at night, mentally give it all back. And this way, you become free. No one can take anything from you, for nothing is yours. These are certain little things, just like really, they help me out a lot. Like, and my grandmother's a big person at this. She was like, you tell me certain things. Like one of the things she says, don't let people rent space in your head for free. You know, like the, you know, sometimes
good advice. Yep.
we get all hyped up over things sometimes, and those things kind of calm me down, and I try and do that. So I had to get those in. We were chatting it up, but I always start the show off with that. And so, you know, it's really cool to have you here, but me being I guess I can't say I'm a rookie anymore. I've already did 44 shows, plus we have done 13 in the FanCave, because this is season 3, you know, and to have someone like you who's a great journalist and, you know, got your talk show as well. We're going to get into that. It's really, it's gratifying. It's so much gratitude in my heart to be able to sit here and talk to you and to understand, like, this guy has really done a lot of the things that I'm doing as a hobby, but he does it as a living, and he's just really good at it. And I've been looking at you and going to you for advice. Half of New Orleans goes to you for advice for music and for art and things like that. And, you know, as I dug deeper into some of the things that you've done, man, it's just truly amazing. It is just really, really, really amazing being a New Orleanian and just one of New Orleans' own, and then being able to take something and cultivate it and bring it into fruition, you know, like me with the whistle monster. My uncle taught me when I was a kid. He said, he taught me how to whistle. And then my grandmother, again, she said, you know, God gives everybody a talent. You just have to find it. And if you don't find it, if you don't use it, it's a sin. And you may not get another one. And so I was like, oh my. And so at 15, I learned to whistle. My uncle taught me. And then I was like 18, I realized I can whistle louder than anyone. And then all of a sudden, Keith, I was like, no, not whistling as a talent, please. But
well, you made something out of it, though.
I had to embrace it.
Yeah.
So you, my friend, you're a very inspiring person in New Orleans.
Thank you.
And you help a lot of people. You give them a lot of serotonin and dopamine blasts from your stories and the people. And I just find it so fascinating, all the people that you have interviewed, man.
Yeah,
Jesus.
man. When you think about it, I've been at the Times-Picayune, or, you know, one form or the other, the Times-Picayune, for 30 years. The 2026 is my 30th anniversary of when I first joined the staff of the Times-Picayune. And prior to that, I was at Offbeat magazine writing there for a few years when I came back to New Orleans from college. You know, as you said, I was born and raised here, grew up here, went away to college in Texas, at Texas A&M, and didn't plan to be a journalist. I was going to go to law school. I was a political science major and going to go to law school. And then my senior year at A&M, I figured out that if I wrote for the student paper about music, then I could get tickets to shows and free albums. And I was a big fan. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'll write and, you know, get access to this stuff, and started doing it and had a knack for it and liked it, and came back to New Orleans and, you know, took my little clips that I'd written at the school paper down to the Picayune and Offbeat and some of the other little free magazines that were around, and started getting some work writing for some of the magazines here. And my first assignment for the Times-Picayune as a freelancer was Hall & Oates at Tipitina's. They were doing, like, you know, they played normally much bigger rooms, Hall & Oates did, but they just wanted to play Tipitina's since it was cool. Hall & Oates, you know, at Tipitina's. It was fall of 89, late 1989. So I went down to Tips and wrote up a show, and it ran in the paper. And I remember, like, you know, sitting inside my house. Actually, it was my parents' house, because I moved back in with my parents right when I got back from college, and just waiting for the paper to be delivered that day that I had my first article in it. It was so exciting. And yeah, that was, you know, all those years ago. I'm still doing it.
So let's back up a little bit. So At A&M,
Mhm.
who are some of the people that you ended up meeting eventually because you were writing a paper?
Well, I was actually involved in music on two fronts. As of my senior year, last semester, I started writing for the paper. But prior to that, all along, I had been on the student committee that booked concerts at Texas A&M on the campus. So we did REM on the work tour. We did The Pretenders with Iggy Pop.
Wow.
We did.
And how old are you?
I'm, 18, 19, 20.
Oh, dude.
And who else? We did a bunch of the big country artists. We had, George Strait and Reba McEntire and Randy Travis and all these people. So, I was on the committee where we would figure out who we wanted, and then we'd, put in offers to the agent and, make the deal. And then, I was, for a while, I was in charge of the hospitality backstage. So I would have to, get the artist rider and figure out, where to get all the stuff that they wanted in their dressing rooms. In whatever, what was it, 1988 in College Station, Texas, there weren't a whole lot of vegetarian food items, so or vegetarian food options. So on the REM rider, Michael Stipe, the singer, his meals backstage had to be strict vegetarian. So we're like, where are we going? College Station, Texas is a meat and potatoes town, in the 1980s. Wasn't a whole lot of vegetarian options. So we came up with some salad stuff. And I remember REM's tour manager inspected the food first before it was served to Michael. And I just remember the look of disappointment and mild disgust at what we'd come up with for his singer to eat in College Station, Texas. But it was cool. It was fun to get a little peek behind the scenes of how it all worked that way. And then, so I was doing double duty my senior year. Like I said, I was doing that committee and I was also writing for the paper. So my first celebrity interview was with Reba McEntire backstage prior to the show, right? So, she was, playing arenas, and of course she's, still a big star, has a TV show and all this sort of stuff.
Huge star.
So I go back there, I'm ushered in her dressing room. She's, sitting at the little table. I sit down in front of her. I put my little micro cassette recorder on the table in front of her. We talk for like 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, she's incredibly warm, incredibly forthright, and, very engaging, just nice as she could be. End of it, thank her, pick up my recorder, walk outside. I'm psyched. I'm like, I can't wait to, put this interview in the paper. Go to play back the tape, nothing. Didn't record any of it. Had nothing. So that was an early lesson in over-reliance on technology. And it made me think that, you always got to take some notes in a situation like that. So I wrote a little article that was just no direct quotes. I just kind of paraphrased what she said, basically. And she ended up being, very kind the whole night. I introduced her on the stage, and we gave her a gift of a Texas A&M sweatshirt, which she put on. The whole rigmarole.
Did y'all give her a cowbell? Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
No. I think she had one of those already. I think her band already had one. But she couldn't have been nicer. So anyways, that was my first time interviewing somebody that was, pretty well known.
Wow,
and then there's been
that is amazing.
many more since then, I guess.
So, of course, I can name a handful of things, but what makes New Orleans music scene so different than everyone else's? You were there in Texas. They had, obviously, because it's influenced with country and a lot of that, so they had Reba McEntire. So we have such a plethora of music. But I'm just curious, as a person who's been in it 30 years plus, our genre and all, what makes it different than everyone else?
Well, it's all the things that makes New Orleans unique as a city. I mean, it's the very diverse roots of the city. I mean, you take it all the way back. You're talking. I mean, it was a Native American settlement. You had French early on. You had Spanish. You had enslaved folks,
German,
free folks of color. Then later Germans, the Irish, the Vietnamese. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that came into it, and it's a port city, so it's going to be kind of a freewheeling, fun town that likes to have a good time. It was also a very Catholic city, so you had that Saturday night, Sunday morning dichotomy of, going out and having a good time and maybe committing a sin or two on Saturday night and then go and ask for forgiveness the next day on Sunday morning.
That's the good thing about a Catholic. You could have a sin and then you can come right back and be like, oh, I'm very sorry about that.
I mean, look, there's a reason Ash Wednesday follows Fat Tuesday,
exactly,
right?
Which is Happy Carnival too, by the way.
Happy Carnival, yes, indeed.
So
all that stuff went into it, but then, this population, the people here are just, I don't know, so much was more friendly or more open or just more, just more in tune with music. It's more, it's woven into people's daily lives more than it is a lot of other places. Everybody knows somebody that plays. Everybody grew up hearing certain songs, that we share in common, whether it's all the Mardi Gras songs. I mean, everybody in this town knows Mardi Gras Mambo. Everybody knows, go to the Mardi Gras. Everybody knows They All Ask for You, the meters or what, I was on the boat. I was talking to George Porter Jr. and Cyril Neville, about They All Ask for You. Say, man, that was the first meter song I heard as like a white kid growing up in the suburbs of New Orleans. I didn't know anything about what was going on in the 7th Ward or whatever, but I did know They All Asked for You.
Yeah,
it was in the DNA, that was out there. So
it's very, I guess, and sizable, bites, if you will. Because if you don't know a whole bunch about it, you can just wait, I know this music because music is a good vibe. I had a doctor on and he was talking about how just listening to music. I had Ivan on on the same show. He was talking about how just neurologically how we go back and it's memories and we think about it and it kind of makes us feel good, and listening to it can help us. But even watching music live is even more helpful for you in longevity and living, because it causes us to have 3 things. Not only we're listening to it, but we're in a place, we're interacting with people, and things are going. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, just rather than saying, hey man, I'm just going to go check out this show. There's so many other things that are going on with us neurologically and physically to where it could actually add on to our life. I thought that was an amazing thing.
Well, based on the number of set lists that you have taped up on the walls and ceiling here, you're going to live a hell of a long time because you've been in a lot of music. I mean,
me and you, man, we New Orleans kids.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
We definitely, that's our DNA, really, man.
For sure.
And I have so many cool things to talk to you about. And so you've taken so many interviews. So I guess, what separates good music story from truly a great one? Meaning you could go talk to somebody and oh, that's a cool, but something a really great one, or something that just really is almost thinking about it, how it's how music helps you live longer. That's a good story about music, is listen to it, but understanding that, wow, it's really helping me live longer. That's a great story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, most music is positive. I mean, there's some music that is, more aggressive and darker, but, even that serves a purpose because it sometimes helps people work out aggressions in a healthier way. If you want to listen to this, super hard rock, death metal or whatever, but if that helps you, like I said, work out, some anger or some emotions, then it's served a positive purpose.
So one of the things that you said, this may help this out a little bit. I saw that you were talking to Bobby Rush, and you told him to say the one word, a thing like you do on Let's Talk with Keith Spera. But he was he said the blues, he said some kind of, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you asked him to say something in one word. It was something he explained the blues. It's something that's inside of you that has to come out.
Yeah.
Some sadness inside it. But he had some tricky little way he said it. Basically, what he was saying was what is the blues or something? You're it's the sadness that's in you that has to come out, is what he was saying. And that is a very profound thing.
Well, yeah. And, Bobby Rush, as I did that interview with him in 2025, in the summer of 2025, he's in his 90s. So, you think about what that cat has seen over the course of his life and how things have changed over the course of his life and what he was dealing with, coming up.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that, give you the blues. And he found a way to release it and let it go and be, and find a positive outlook on life. He is talk about a positive dude. That guy super positive. And, you know, he's got a lot to be thankful for. Like I said, he's 91, 92, thereabouts. Still very healthy, still touring like crazy, going to Europe on tour and doing all this stuff. And it's like, I mean, he is a very active 90-something. It's
that
crazy.
keeps him young, I'm sure, right?
I'm sure it helps. Yeah. I mean, and obviously he loves it, you know? I mean, you know, he loves doing it. Like, you know, I don't think he has to do it at this point, but that's just what he does. He plays shows for people and he goes around the world and he makes them happy. He makes records and he's still going to do it. And he's going to do it till he can't. And yeah, there's something to be said for that. Absolutely. So, you know, much respect to Bobby Rush and Charlie Gabriel, you know,
Dude, I was going to ask you about Charlie. He is unbelievable, man. I mean,
I had him on the show the first year I was doing on Let's Talk the first year. And man, I mean, talk about like a guy that's like a, you know, what's the word? Like an elder or like a, you know, just a truth sayer. I mean, his way of seeing the world, and I mean, he's just such a hip guy.
His soul feels like some people, you know, you talk to him and you just kind of feel their energy, right? And like he's one of those guys that like I feel like he's always like this. Like it could be, you know,
steady.
Yeah,
steady.
He's all because you know, I try and pride myself off of that. Like I try not to get too. I mean, being a Saints fan for so long,
well,
you can't go up and down all day long.
You got to
so
take the edge off, yes.
Yeah, so he's just that guy that, I mean, I feel like I could talk to him forever.
Yeah.
He's just such a classy guy. He seems so, and I don't know him that well, but he's just so talented and he's seen so many, like Bobby, these guys have been in it so long. And then to see them come here and still at an extremely high level, and I'm talking like crazy numbers.
That record that Charlie put out a couple years ago called 89, that came out on Sub Pop Records, is such a great listen. You know, we love putting on that record like at dinner time or whatever, because it's just like got this cool vibe, this chill vibe. You know, he sings a little bit on it and he's got such a, you know, kind of gentle voice at this point, but you know, his sax playing is such a great tone. And he just had on that record, I think it's just Ben Jaffe playing bass and Joshua Starkman playing a little guitar. So it's very stripped down arrangements, but it's just such a great
all those guys are so talented, man. I mean, what a legacy that Press Hall is, huh?
Well, it's a legacy, but it's also still contemporary. You know, it's still relevant. And Ben Jaffe, the whose parents, of course, founded it, and now he's the creative director and runs it and plays sousaphone and bass. He was on this most recent Big Easy cruise in January 2026, and he was one of the interviews I did on the boat. And you know, he was just telling some great stories. I mean, about interacting with contemporary musicians. You know, I mean, they've, you know, collaborated with the Foo Fighters and, you know, for their Midnight Preserves series that they do at night during Jazz Fest. They've had Robert Plant and Pete Townsend and Jimmy Buffett and all these guys come down to Press Hall and perform with them. I mean, it's really interesting.
During those Jazz Fest times, man, I mean, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, it's so awesome to be going there. I saw Michael Franti there. I saw, what's his name? I ran into Dave Grohl there. I mean, like every person that goes there, they got to check in, you know, like some people go to Bourbon Street, musicians go to Press Hall.
Oh yeah. I mean, a couple of Rolling Stones guys were down there. You know, guys from The Cure, last time they were in New Orleans, they went down to Press Hall. Like, you know, it's, musicians very especially British musicians, because they have so much respect for New Orleans music and New Orleans jazz. You know, both early New Orleans rhythm and blues and New Orleans jazz. You know, it's hugely influential on a whole two or three generations of British musicians.
Was Satchmo a big part of that? Like coming like back there in those days, or was way before him?
Well, no, I mean, I think Satchmo was a big part of it. But like, yeah, there were other, you know, those other early jazz records, you know, were imported over there. Guys, you know, Merchant Marines brought them back. And there was just Europe is just a huge market for jazz. I mean, arguably, you know, jazz is more popular there than it is in the States, you know, and I mean, there are specifically New Orleans jazz bands in Europe, you know, that they strive to be as authentic as they can to the New Orleans sound, you know, which is just fascinating to me that you go to Norway and hear like a New Orleans, quote unquote, New Orleans jazz band playing over there. They love it, you know, they love it. And, you know, the rhythm and blues, man, I mean, you know, the most prominent example was the Rolling Stones doing Time Is On My Side, which they,
you have a long history with Rolling Stones too.
Me?
Yeah, I mean, and that's not anything to shake a stick at. People lining up to wish that they can get there. I mean, it just, when I think about you, man, I just think of a plethora of things like that you just created and like kind of made your own way for in your mind. Even though you were thinking political science and being an attorney, but all of a sudden you just started just accepting some things and saying, "Hey, let me try this," and then it turned into something amazing, and just keep on like not just one, but you keep on hitting them and keep on hitting them and keep on hitting them. And as my grandma would say, you got to utilize those talents that you have. And dude, are you utilizing them? And actually, I think it's the coolest thing to have something in your mind to think about it and then bring it to fruition and then have it like be a thing and have people really just enjoy it. Like just from, I guess how everything starts, but it's just the stuff with the Rolling Stones and with Fats Domino and everything that you were doing. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Well, my history with the Rolling Stones, I think, started when I was in college and I snuck into the Rolling Stones show at the Superdome on a Steel Wheels tour. Didn't have a ticket, didn't have any money. And so I don't know if this is giving people ideas, but like I gave my buddy a clipboard and I had a flashlight and we made little passes out of, remember the CD long boxes? Remember the CDs used to come in the cardboard long box? So the Steel Wheels album, you had that kind of motif that was on the CD cover was on the long box, and we assumed that would be part of the backstage passes as well, which turns out it was. So we'd like cut up the long boxes and made these little passes and hung them off our belt buckles. And like I said, he had a clipboard and I had a flashlight or vice versa. I'm like, dude, we're just going to walk up to the doors. Don't even stop. Just like walk in like we own the place. That's what we did. We like walk right in and we're like, oh my gosh, we were so excited. So we had to go find a payphone because there were no cell phones then and call people to tell them that we pulled it off. Like we made it in, we got in, so.
That is so awesome. That's like a New Orleans thing, man. I swear I think you feel the same way too. If you're here and there's some music here, you're like, you know what? I know enough people and I know I'm going to get into this place. And then
yeah, well, that was knowing nobody. That was just like taking the initiative on our own.
That's being brilliant. That's being like taking, what's that? They say invention is the mother of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. Yep. Like it was a necessity to get in there. So you invented a passing lights and made it through, man. That's some beautiful stuff.
I guess I owe Mick Jagger like $30 for that ticket.
Yeah. So you have a favorite? I don't even need to ask you what's your favorite Rolling Stone story. That has to be your favorite Rolling Stone story.
Yeah, that's probably the best. I mean, that's a good one.
Dude, like payphone. If you got a story about it with involving a payphone and the Rolling Stones and getting in for free, that is the best story that you can have. So, what genre or culture you feel is extremely underrated?
What genre of music do you think?
Our culture.
I mean,
you could go. Me off the bat, I think that a lot of people don't know a lot about the Mardi Gras Indian stuff that we have, our second lines. But that's my thing. But what do you think?
No, I mean, there's some truth to that. I mean, I think certainly when you go outside of New Orleans, nobody knows anything really about those sorts of things. Who is it? Ben Jaffe was telling a story on the boat about when the Foo Fighters came to town to film their the show they were doing where they went to what was called Sonic Highways. It was like an HBO series where they would go to a different town and spend a week there and
play in the little clubs.
Yeah, play in the clubs and learn the music culture of that town and interact with it and all that. So when they came to New Orleans, they were based at Preservation Hall, and Joe Lasty, the drummer at Pres Hall.
Wow.
I guess his family was involved with one of the social aid and pleasure clubs, and they were doing a second line. So Joe invited the Foo Fighters to come to the second line. And, as Ben told the story, he was like, yeah, they're all like, yeah, man, we'll do it. And then when Joe left, they turned to Ben and they're like, what did we just agree to go to? Like, they had no idea what it was going to be. So Ben had to explain, like, all right, well, here's the deal. There's going to be a band and there's going to be these guys in the matching suits and we're going to walk through the streets for like 4 miles. And there'll be guys selling beers out of, wagons and all this sort of stuff. And they were, and so they like went along for the ride and were blown away, but had literally no idea that existed anywhere in America, so they had no idea. And, these are worldly guys that have traveled quite a bit and they had no idea. So that aspect of New Orleans culture, is certainly not known. And I talked about it earlier about, growing up in the suburbs. I grew up in New Orleans East.
So did my wife.
So's your wife? Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, there were no second lines in New Orleans East when I was growing up, so we would come down. My dad's office was on St. Charles Avenue. Ironically enough, it was directly across the street from where the Times-Picayune office is now on St. Charles, like literally across the street. So, so I used to be in the stands, the Mardi Gras stands in front of his office when I was a kid. And then when my kids were younger, we were in the stands in front of the Picayune office.
Wow.
So literally across the street. It was so talk about a full circle moment. But so we would come down for the parades and all that sort of stuff, but we weren't going to second lines, or anything like that. And I didn't know anything about Mardi Gras Indians or that sort of stuff growing up here. But, at that point in, the 70s, the city wasn't necessarily promoting those sorts of things as representatives of the culture. Like
it wasn't that friendly for anybody.
Well, yeah, no. It was a lot rougher back in the day, I guess, especially when the Mardi Gras Indians have talked about that.
Don't break out a camera. Right. They might take it from you and...
Right. But the older guys, we'll talk about that, how back in the day, there was it wasn't just competing to see who had the prettiest suit. There was there could be some actual fights and violence and stuff involved.
Spy boy.
Yeah, all that stuff. So I didn't know that much about all that growing up. But now I think, the city rightly has, uses Mardi Gras Indian imagery and all that to promote the fact that New Orleans is this unique culture, and folks should come check it out. So for sure.
I love everything about, you feel sad sometimes because of the crime and all those different things. But then when you get that, just so many times, and you feel this throughout your whole entire life on so many different levels, but I'm just talking like how you feel so proud of being from New Orleans.
Yeah.
Especially when you think of the Mardi Gras Indians, you think of the second lines, you think of just like these little hole in the wall places when you go walking down French Quarter and all of a sudden you look and you go in and you're like, dude, I had no idea this was in here.
Yeah.
It's just, it really is one of those cool things.
It's a city of never ending surprises. You can always find something that you didn't know. And my daughter now, my eldest daughter is away at school in Tennessee. And I think she gets a lot of cred coming from New Orleans. They're like, wow, you come from New Orleans. So there's she got a bunch of people who want to come back from Mardi Gras with her. So I'm like, Lordy, how many people are we going to be hosting?
Right.
It's going to be a bunch.
That's how it goes, man. So see, and the thing, I'm listening to you talk about that, and I think it's just another beautiful thing to let, it's like a seed was planted in you at an early age, right? Mm-hmm. And when you would say you come from the East and you go down, you really didn't know about it a whole bunch. But just to think about the tree that you have grown from that seed of not, because so kids, I guess, listening to this and all, just because you don't really know a whole bunch about something at a certain time doesn't mean that you can't cannonball right into it and really do something special.
Well, and one of the guys that helped grow that seed in me was my dad. My dad is, he's still alive as we talk here, a huge fan of New Orleans rhythm and blues from the 50s and early 60s. So he had all those 45s of Fats Domino and Irma Thomas and Ernie Cato, as well as, the Platters and bands that weren't from here. So I heard all that New Orleans rhythm and blues growing up, even though at the time, I dismissed it as old man's music. I'm like, that's something my dad listens to, But then, of course, later on, when I got a little bit older and wiser, I'm like, oh my God, that's something like the hippest music that's ever been recorded. So the night I got to introduce my dad to Fats Domino was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool full circle.
Wow,
because he had never met Fats, and that was one of his musical heroes.
You're like, Pop, you did a good thing, man.
Yes.
Look at this. Look at your boy now.
Yes.
Let me introduce you to this.
So
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to explain to us the Miss Love story.
The which one?
Courtney Love story.
Courtney Love. So Courtney Love from the band Hole is largely responsible for my career. I was working at Offbeat magazine in early 1996, but had been freelancing for the Times-Picayune for a number of years. Scott Ages, who was the music writer at the paper, he wasn't a big fan of hard rock or country. So whenever my old friend Reba McEntire would come to town, or Motley Crue, he would call me and say, "Hey, you want to go cover these for me?" And I'd say, "Yes, I do." So, so I would go, I'd get on the phone with Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, and we'd go to the show and all this. So that kind of got my foot in the door at the paper. It was doing that stuff. So when Scott left, they had me doing a lot more work, but they were hesitant to hire me because I didn't have a journalism degree. And they were concerned that I didn't have any experience writing about hard news. Because, even if you're the music writer, there's still that news that happens on that beat, and you have to be like a news reporter. It's not just being a critic or talking about music you like. Sometimes you got to write news stories. So that was a concern. So in early 96, Hole was in New Orleans, I think working on a record. Courtney Love goes to see the band Green Day at the Lakefront Arena. She gets into a fight with the UNO security guards. After the show, like the whole arena cleared out, and I was still hanging out there. And Billy Joe Armstrong, the singer and guitar player from Green Day, pokes his head out from one of like the backstage doors. And I go, "Oh, are you looking for Courtney?" And he's like, "I don't know if I'm looking for her or hiding from her." So the next day, Courtney calls the paper because she wants to tell somebody about what happened to her at the show, and and she wants to make a thing out of it. And so they put her on the phone. They directed her to me. They put her on the phone with me. So I talked to her for like 45 minutes. She's crying. She's laughing. It's like a whole crazy conversation. I finally say, "Courtney, I got to go. I got to write a story." So hang up the phone. She calls back 10 minutes later. Goes on for like another 20 minutes. I'm like, Courtney, I got to go. Got to write a story. So now it's like 6 o'clock in the evening, right? I sit down in the main room at the Times-Picayune, and this is at the old Howard Avenue office. So it's like a big newsroom with 60 or 70 reporters, whatever. I sit down. It's 6 o'clock. I've got like an hour and a half to write the story. And just to say, at the time, this was when Courtney was at the height of her fame. She'd just been on Barbara Walters' 10 Most Fascinating People show, or whatever Barbara used to do. So she was at the height of her fame. So there's a lot of interest in Courtney and what she did. So this is like a big story. It's going to be on the front page. So Jed Horn, the city editor of the newspaper at the time, he walks up to me as I'm sitting there at the computer about to start writing on deadline, and he's like, "Officially, this is not your audition. Your audition, but you'd be a fool to not think this wasn't your audition."
That's what I was going to think. I'm like, bro, this is prime time right here.
So he's like, so basically, you write this story and it's good, it's cool on the front page on deadline, then that will alleviate our fears about your ability to write hard news. So I sat there, I wrote the story, it was on the front page the next day, and they hired me like 2 weeks later.
Wow, dude, that gave me chills, man.
So thank you, Courtney Love.
Yes, Courtney Love, bro.
Thank you, Courtney Love.
She's definitely a person that is iconic, and she is goes to the beat of her own drum.
Yep.
I mean, what was it like interviewing her? She was like up and down, like you said, she would cry.
Oh yeah, she was all over the place.
And she called you back.
Called back.
I'm not finished.
Yeah, she wanted to go some more. I'm like,
got to get this work done.
I gotta go. I really gotta go. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was.
So over the years, any trends you noticed in live music audiences between then and now, like big differences?
Well, I think as a whole, they probably drink less now, which is not necessarily a great thing for music venues, because as the ticket sales alone, that doesn't support the venue. I mean, ticket sales cover what the band makes, generally speaking, but the venue makes money off of beverage sales. So that is definitely something that I've heard expressed by club owners, that it's they've just got to be a little bit more nimble, a little look, it's not necessarily a bad thing that people aren't getting as wasted as they used to. I don't drink. Show.
I mean, I'm probably one of those people.
You're costing them money, man. You're putting them out of business. You specifically are putting them out of business. No, I don't drink very much either. So society at large is probably not a bad thing necessarily, but we need music venues, so we need to make sure they stay open, because that's where bands cut their teeth. That's where they learn the craft. That's how they learn how to interact with audiences, and that's how a lot of musicians pay the bills. They don't make money off recordings anymore, and you can only sell so many T-shirts. You need to play live, for all but the 1% of musicians that are in that upper echelon of earners, that can fill arenas and all that kind of stuff. The vast majority of musicians, especially in New Orleans, are working musicians. They're playing clubs, they're playing private functions to make ends meet, or they're working a day job as well, to make ends meet. So you need music venues for there to be a scene, and especially in New Orleans, food and music are the twin, that's the lifeblood of the city,
Amen.
Tourism is lifeblood, and what brings in the tourists is food and music.
Yes, food, music, and art. Absolutely. And so you hear that, kids, right? Get out there and go look at some live local music and drink.
Well, at least buy a couple of Cokes or something if you're not drinking alcohol. Yeah, buy a couple of Cokes, a couple of waters.
So, do you have any advice for anyone who aspires to be a cultural journalist?
Yeah, it's tricky because the newspaper industry, especially, has obviously contracted a whole lot over the last decade. Papers have shed a lot of jobs, and a lot of papers no longer have full-time cultural writers, critics. So you have to be diversified. I mean, even I don't write just about music. I write other types of feature stories as well. In 2025, I did that long story about Chris Rose, the former Times Picayune columnist.
I love that too.
Thank you. He's now living in in
a
state
Chris
park in Maryland. Great,
I love
great guy.
him, man. He's
very,
funny.
He's had a talk about ups and downs. He's had a lot of them. So I went up and visited with him in the woods where he lives in Maryland. Did a story about that. Had nothing to do with music, but it was a lot of fun to write and a really good story. So that said, diversify. But the main thing is just write, just do it, and now, you can have your own blog, you can have your own website, you can self-publish material, and then you send that to other people and say, hey, this is what I wrote on this. Would you like me to write about something else? Which is what I did. I did the analog version of that. When I was coming up, I was like finding all the little free magazines that were in the clubs, and I'd take them home and I'd look to see who the editor was, and I'd call them up and say, hey, I write about music, can I come show you some clips of stuff that I've done? And then you just kind of build up from small publications to a little bit bigger publications, a little bit bigger. Now it's, a lot of it's online. You do it for, smaller websites or your own website, and then you build your way up to more prestigious ones, more high profile ones.
So I want to ask you this I just thought of it. I want to ask you, what inspiring, do you have any advice for someone like me who is just starting off into this business? That's, I don't feed myself with this, but just something that, because you have your show, and your show is awesome, man. I got a list of people. I don't even know. This is just some of the people that you've interviewed since 2023, which is ridiculous. And so you're a professional at that too. That's what I mean. Like, you always like an artist. Well, you are an artist, and I feel like food, music, and art is all art, but you have used another medium multiple times, I feel.
Yeah.
So like, what advice do you have for someone who wants to go and do like a talk show about, just talk to folks about and interview it?
Yeah, well, look, I think you're doing a fine job right here. The thing with Let's Talk with Keith Spera, which airs on WLAE TV and then also on WWNO Radio on the local NPR affiliate. It started off because I was doing all these interviews with people over the phone, and what ended up on the printed page is only a small portion of that interview, A, and B, you don't get to hear how they said those things. You don't get to hear the nuance and the emphasis and the distinctive patterns of speech that set every artist apart and every interview subject apart. So I was like, well, I wish there was a way where people could just hear these whole interviews. And so that's how it started. So now a lot of the interviews that I do on Let's Talk are essentially the interviews I would do for the newspaper. And they are the interviews I do for the newspaper. Like, the Let's Talk episodes are the raw material for a lot of the articles that end up in the Picayune. Now, I just do those interviews, with the person in the WLA studio or on Zoom, and then take them and put them in the paper as a Q&A or write a feature out of them. So yeah, I've always been a very conversational interviewer. I do research, and I kind of know the background, the general history, and I'll kind of jot down a couple of high points, because my show is 24 minutes or 25 minutes. So in those 25 minutes, I want to give a listener the overview of who that person is. If they know nothing about that person, or if they know a lot about that person, I want there to be something in the interview for both of those. So if you know nothing about somebody, you'll come away with a sense of who they are and what they do. If you did know something about them, hopefully you've heard a story that you'd never heard before. You've gained an insight that you've never heard about them before. So that's the trick, is to coax them to tell stories that they haven't told before, to make them comfortable and relaxed, where they're just talking, even though they know it's going to go out to the public. Let them talk, and hopefully those unique stories will come out.
Wow, that's some great advice. I mean, I'm doing maybe 10% of that, but that whole overview and coaxing them and allowing them, I guess that just comes with more and more reputation, more and more reps, right? And getting all your reps in and getting your reps in and understanding that that's it, and feeling more comfortable once you get those reps in, and then you start to kind of like, I guess it just comes off as natural rather than trying to push it and trying to make it work, right?
Yep. It should, it's got to have a flow, and especially on that, I like to open with some sort of like unusual question or something that that gets people's attention, and then we talk about that for a little while, and then the second segment will go back to like the early history, and we'll work through their their formative years of what put them on the path, and then the last third will deal with like any contemporary things that have come up. I had John Legend on.
I saw that,
and
I didn't see it, but I making the sandwiches.
He was great. Exactly. The sandwiches, like that was like, I'd read that somewhere in some People magazine article or something. And I remembered it. And I asked him, I said, I hear you're like the late night sandwich maker for your wife. And he thought that was funny. He thought that was great. He's like, yeah. He's like, that started when she was pregnant, and I would do that. And he's like,
I'm a big fan of his wife.
Oh, she's great. Yeah, she's awesome.
She is awesome, man.
She's awesome.
So in the same vein, any person that you've ever, I mean, I can't even, Ozzy, I mean, you interviewed every person. Anybody you ever got like a little bit nervous to go and interview them, or is it always sort of a nervous thing? You just embrace it. But did anybody ever make you feel like, I had to get this right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially early on. I mean, early on, you think the stakes are much higher. So you get, I got nervous a lot early on. I mean, my favorite band growing up, and I mean, still, if I had to pick a favorite band, it would be Rush, which, I was
going to ask that question.
Has nothing to do with like New Orleans. It's like the least funky thing on the planet. But, I got latched onto them as like a, teenage boy, and who, and like their whole like
how can you
sci-fi
not
thing.
Like Rush?
Yeah, the musicianship was all great, and the whole like, they had a song called
Tom Sawyer.
No, Tom Sawyer, but Subdivisions. It was about growing up in the suburbs and how how you have to rebel against the sameness. And I was living in the suburbs of New Orleans, and it totally spoke to me. I'm like, okay. But anyway, the first time I interviewed Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, the drummer and lyricist, I was so freaked out. Like, there was a famous Saturday Night Live sketch with oh my gosh, the heavyset comedian that passed away.
John, Chris Farley.
Thank you, Chris Farley. Where Chris Farley was interviewing Paul McCartney, and the premise was
him too.
No, I didn't interview. I actually interviewed McCartney. I like exchanged a line with him backstage at the Desert Trip Festival. That was my McCartney. I've never actually interviewed him. I'd love to, but anyway, but the Farley skit was him and McCartney, and like Farley was interviewing him, and he'd be like, that time you were in the Beatles, that was really cool. Like he was just so freaked out. That was the best. And Paul would be like, yeah, it was. What's your question? So I think I was like that the first time I interviewed Neil Peart. I'd be like, wow, that drum fill you did on Xanadu, that was so cool. And he's like, yes, it was. And but anyway, that was just because they were such a big deal to me personally. But yeah, even now, I mean, you get a little nervous, but you want that. I mean, you want to have that little bit of butterflies in the stomach, like I think a performer before you go on stage. You want to have a little bit of that just so it picks you up to the next level. So
I hear a lot of that with performers, even like really good performers. Like me and Ivan Neville, really, really close. Like, and he even tells me that sometimes. And one of the things with most musicians, I feel, you can't really get them to get excited. Like, especially if they did a good show. One of the things that most of them always say is like, yeah, that was fun.
Right.
It's like, they know, like, dude, we killed it. It's just like, that was fun.
Well, I think a lot of them, there's a range where the shows fall. And if you're a professional musician, they're always going to be in that good range. And if you're on tour and you're doing 4 and 5 shows a week, you can only expend so much emotional energy every night. But every now and then, there's a show that does kick into the where the needle red lines, and it's in that great range, you know, and it's really over the top. And those are the ones that they remember, I think, you know. Majority of them are going to be, you know, like I said, good, and the fans will go away happy. It's all good, you know, but every now and then, for whatever reason, the things click in a certain way and it's great, you know, and those are the ones that really stand out.
You're spitting out a lot of answers or questions I was going to ask. So I kind of go back to this one. I was going to ask you, dead or alive, if you could interview someone, who would it be? Now, you could do one dead and you can do one alive, just so you can get both of them in.
Yeah, Paul McCartney would certainly be great. You know, I would have said Robert Plant, but I have interviewed him, so I checked that one off the list. But yeah, McCartney would be, I think, a lot of fun, just because he was is such a huge fan of New Orleans as well. I mean, you know, that famous picture of the Beatles with Fats Domino in that trailer backstage at the City Park concert, and what was that, 60?
Yeah,
whatever year it was. You know, McCartney, you know, loves that stuff, and he's posts on social media when certain New Orleans legends have died. He's, you know, offered condolences, like, so he still kind of follows it. So he would be great to interview. You know, gosh, dead. You know, Freddie Mercury was a fascinating guy, from Queen. But I would have loved to have, you know, spent an afternoon with Professor Longhair, or James Booker, going on James Booker's rounds, making the rounds with James Booker, you know, like that would have been a crazy story.
James is wild. I would love that. And just such a talent though, man. I mean, I could listen to that. I mean, he almost plays a whole song before he goes into a song.
Yeah.
And then he comes into like that whole build up, and then he goes into it, and just the talent that's just flowing from this guy.
I mean, crazy talented, but also, you know, it had some issues, you know, and was very unpredictable. And you know, you talk, John Cleary was talking to him about that on the boat. You know, he was at the Maple Leaf when Booker was still playing there. You know, John, you know, his first job in New Orleans after he came here from England was painting the Maple Leaf Bar.
I heard the story from Hank Staples. I had Hank on here too. He tells the story, like there was these two girls, one of the bartenders that worked there was from London, and she would tell all of them when they came, they had to go to the Maple Leaf. So John comes to the Maple Leaf with someone, and they were like, basically, we need to build and paint it. You know, right. He got a job there, right. He started working, and then he just, I think he was playing guitar or something first.
He was playing guitar originally, yeah.
And then he went to piano. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, he was a guitar player originally. But anyway, yeah, like just like spending a day, you know, with James Booker and like being a fly on the wall and just reporting that story. Like because I love doing those, you know, participatory stories where you know, get to just, like I said, just follow along and describe what happens. And that would have been fascinating, I think. So
I'm going to get you out of here on a few quick ones here. Where's the most interesting or unique place you did an interview with someone?
Well, certainly, you know, Chris Rose's tent in the woods of Maryland, in the state park in Maryland, is up there. Wow. You know, it was interesting. There was this guy, Phil Anselmo, who was a singer in the band Pantera, the hard rock band Pantera. He's from New Orleans and lives on the North Shore. And one time, this photographer from the paper and this photographer named Rusty Costanza and I went up to Phil's place in the woods, and he had like a music room garage. And at the time, Phil was struggling with some pretty significant like pain pill addictions and all that sort of stuff. So we were sitting there, it was at night, and we were sitting there in his music room garage, and he was sitting in front of the drum kit, and he had a lit cigarette in his hands, and he nodded off in the middle of the interview, just went out, but just froze in place with this lit cigarette, like burning down his fingers. And Rusty and I were like, what's the protocol here? Do we take the cigarette out of his fingers? Do we wake him up? Like, what do we do? So that was like, it was kind of a weird setting, but it was also just a very strange circumstance because, you know, it was just, I'd never had that happen. A guy like nod off in the middle of the interview, but eventually came to, and he's apologetic, and now he's in a much better place. I mean, he's gotten, you know, resolved all his issues and everything. So
he went to King. He went to Grace King. I went to Grace King.
That's right.
Too.
He went to Grace King.
Him and I went to. He used to be just sitting in the bleachers, man.
Yeah.
Nobody, always by himself, just sitting in the bleachers. I feels a cool dude, man.
Yeah, intense dude. You know, intense dude.
So, the speed round's coming up. Mm-hmm. If you could just give me And I mean, I'm not going to go through all these people. I'll circle some people, but just one sentence or a one word about the person in the interview you had. Master P.
Business mind.
Tom Lamus.
Tom Yamas, the from
Lamas,
NBC Nightly News host.
Uh-huh.
Super smart.
Bradford Marcellus.
Also super smart and does not suffer fools gladly.
Carl Denson.
Carl Denson.
Carl D.
Carl Denson, his own jam band, Carl Denson's Tiny Universe, and the sax player for the Rolling Stones for the last 10 or 12 years. Carl, a guy who can't believe his good fortune. He's
very humble.
In the role, very humble. But I think he's still blown away by the fact that he rides around on a Rolling Stones private jet when he's on the road with those guys.
I think that's the key to really just always just excelling is just staying humble. Like how could you, it's most people once they go there, not most, but I could see how people can start to kind of drink their own Kool-Aid. But if you're also still going, man, I just can't believe it. It's like that's something that's grounding. That's really good.
Well, yeah, and the fact is it could all go away at any time. I mean, it could all go away. So,
especially in the music business,
yeah, yeah, you want to be confident. You want to have confidence in yourself, but yeah, you don't want to necessarily be cocky. I mean, you want to understand that.
John Cleary.
Very, very funny English sense of humor.
Galactic.
Guys that, work their way all the way up, I mean, most of, with the exception of Stanton Moore, the drummer, he's the only one that's from New Orleans, but all those dudes came down here to go to school because they love the music and they cut their teeth, at Benny's Blues Bar, man. I mean, it didn't get more grungy and funky New Orleans than that place. And that's where they started playing. And now
I got chills from that one too.
Whew, look at them go. Look at the Galactic guys go. They've done it.
And on your show, you called him King, Freddie King.
King. That's right. I mean, man, what a great character and a survivor from another era of the blues, his 2-wheel Cadillac, his bicycle and all that stuff. I mean, just a really, really neat dude.
That dude has the fountain of youth or something. I've never seen a guy his age doing jump kicks with a guitar.
No, he's a survivor.
Sally Ann Roberts.
The most gracious, kind-hearted person ever.
40 years of Anchor?
That's a lot of talking.
It is. Kyle Russell.
Kyle Russell, a brilliant guy who is very reserved, very calm, but really funny once you get him rolling.
Leo Nisantelli.
Leo from the Meters.
Yes.
Look, Leo does not lack confidence. I will say that. Leo is, awesome. He knows what's up. I mean, look, he helped write. He helped write one of the greatest catalogs in the history of New Orleans music. So
he really did.
More power to him.
Lyle Lovett. Besides your alumni.
Yes, indeed. Fellow Texas A&M Aggie. Also very smart, very well spoken, and just like the classic Texas gentleman.
Wow. Mark Romick,
the voice of the Saints, man.
First down.
Another super nice individual, voice of God in the Superdome. And I got to give a shout.
I'm going to tell him that.
Voice of God in the Superdome, man. And he and I co-host the annual Blue Rose Ball, which is a benefit for St. Michael's Special School. So he and I have our little duo act. We've done it 3 years now, 2 or 3 years, 3 years, I think.
That's awesome.
And we're already signed up for the 2026 one together. So he's a great guy. A lot of fun.
Trombone Shorty.
Another one who has made a lot of smart moves. And that's a guy that, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, very focused on eyes on the prize. And it's been a lot of fun to see him mature as a band leader and get to the point where he can do a big show to close out Jazz Fest every year. He inherited the gig from the Neville brothers, and these last couple of years, the show with the special guests, with Juvenile, and I think Leonardo Satelli came up this last time. He now knows that you got to put together a big New Orleans show to close that thing out, and he does a great job with it.
I totally agree, but one of the things about him that just kind of sticks with me for a long time, and I known him for a very, very long time, and I can't believe he's 40 years old now.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. But he would make the band practice in the dark,
Oh wow, that's cool.
and that's something.
It's like if you're a Marine, you got to know how to put your weapon, take it apart, put it back together, blindfolded. It's kind of same concept. You got to do it in the dark.
Interesting.
So you're so comfortable with it.
Charlie Gabriel.
Again, the hippest guy in the room, even at 90-something years old.
Quint Davis.
Quint said to me one time, the second line has to respect the bottom line. So, in other words, people always, complain, bitch and moan about, oh, yeah, Jazz Fest is out to make money. Jazz Fest has to make money or Jazz Fest goes away. So Quint, I think, has done a pretty good job of balancing those things. He's turned Jazz Fest into a world-class operation that has benefited New Orleans music and culture in immeasurable ways.
Irma Thomas.
Love Irma so much. I mean, she is a sweet lady whose voice is better than ever. Incredible as that seems. I mean, she sings as good, if not better, than she did when she was in her 20s, and she's in her 80s at this point. So
she is. I mean,
remarkable.
Is there something in the water here in Louisiana?
Tell you what, I mean,
New Orleans especially.
Tell you what, she's incredible. Yeah, one of my favorite people that I've ever gotten to know as a journalist.
Cyril Neville.
Cyril, man, he is a trip too. I mean, Cyril, very intense in his younger years, and he's, I think, mellowed in a lot of ways, as many people do when they get older. But man, what a voice. I mean, what a soulful voice. And he was, a key ingredient of the Neville brothers and the Latter-day Meters as well.
Yeah, so I was going to say.
He was in both those. I mean,
I think he got inducted with them with the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, he joined the band, ahead of the Fire on the Bayou album in '75, and ahead of the Meters going on the road with the Rolling Stones. So he was definitely there for those last few Meters albums, and key part of that band, and then key part of the Neville brothers.
Arthur Hardy,
Mr. Mardi Gras.
Yes,
I mean, he has defined Mardi Gras for a couple of different generations of people, and and he's communicated the magic of it without sacrificing all of the mystery. So he's let people understand it and know the history, but not totally taking away the mystique. So good job, Arthur.
Sally Ann Glassman.
Sally Ann Glassman, yes, indeed.
Be careful.
No, look, Sally Ann.
Just joking.
I mean, talk about an unusual personal journey. As she said. I mean, she's like a white Jewish lady from the Northeast who is somehow became one of the most prominent, voodoo priestess in New Orleans. But went to Haiti and did the thing, and did it for real. So really, really, really interesting person. Really enjoy talking to Sally Ann every time.
Dr. Michael White.
The professor of traditional New Orleans jazz. Very studious individual. You'll rarely meet anyone who is more wholeheartedly devoted to his genre. I mean, both knowing the history, researching the history, and moving the music forward by writing new songs in the genre, which is key. You can't just play the old tunes. You got to write some new ones.
Last question. We're supposed to go 30, 40 minutes. We're at an hour. Okay. Because it's fun. So any upcoming projects, stories, exciting, you're excited about this year?
Well, you just had the same experience that all my editors have, which is that I'm going to write a story. It's going to be too long, and it's probably going to come in late. But now, look, I mean, I just want to keep the Let's Talk side thing going, because I think it feeds in nicely with what I do at the paper, and it's been a whole lot of fun for me to learn how to do it, on camera and on the radio. Before we know it, Jazz Fest is going to be here, which is my Super Bowl season. I mean, I like to tell people that, the now 8 days at the fairgrounds, for me to go out there every day, I'm there from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. when I finish writing the front page column for the next day's paper. I have basically an hour at the end of the day to write the story that'll be on the next day's front page. So for me to cover those 8 days of Jazz Fest over the course of, 12 days, it's like a sports writer covering all of the Saints home games in a 12-day period. It's like if you took all the Saints home games and played them over the course of 12 days and had to cover all of them, that's what I do during Jazz Fest, basically. And it's, it's intense, but still
I was
love
going
it.
to say, you have to like eat right, sleep right,
Yep.
work out, prepare. It is like almost the partiers getting ready for Mardi Gras, right? For us. So you just like, I got to focus. And how tough is it really? Because there's so much, like the night shows are just almost starting to compete with the daytime shows. So like,
Yeah, I don't go to many of the night ones just because you can't.
Yeah, you
I
can't,
mean,
you can't.
I'll go to some, like the really significant ones, but after being out the fairgrounds for 9 hours and riding on deadline, knowing you got to do it another day, I mean, I want to go home and take a shower and go to
Man,
sleep. So,
Keith, as a beginning, relatively new interviewer, I give myself maybe like probably like a B- because I did not get to the Pulitzer Prize. Thank you for that, for keeping up with everything for Katrina for us. I know it was a team of you guys,
it was a team, part of
your
the team.
accolades to that. And then also, one of the things I'm really excited about, man, that you're on, and I'm going to dig deeper into it, like just go and check out, is Louisiana Music and Heritage.
The Louisiana Music Heritage Experience you're talking about?
Yeah, that you're on a board and you're a curator and all that for. I was listening to you on an interview and you were talking about Paul Allen's in Seattle, and I've been there, and it was really cool. And I know the vision that you have, man, and the knowledge that you have is long overdue. And anything that I can do to help you or whatever, I just think it's long overdue, and I'm very excited that you're involved with it because you're a perfect person who knows all the stuff.
Yeah, I'm a very minor player at this point. I mean, they had asked me early on to be part of the advisory board just to talk to them about what should be there, what the displays would be like, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've been immersed in New Orleans music for 40 years now, so I was happy to be part of it. But no, if and when it gets built, I mean, they're talking about this thing being, on a similar attraction to the World War II Museum. Like it's that kind of facility. It's like $160 million budget. It can be, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, like the Experience Music Project in Seattle, like the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles, the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville. That's the vision, is for this thing to be on par with those facilities, which have been huge benefits for their town, for the cities that they're in, and I think could be a huge benefit for New Orleans, because that can be the jumping off point for people that want to know about music and culture. They can come there and learn about it, and then go out to Tipitina's or the Maple Leaf to hear it, or go buy some music from these New Orleans artists that they've learned about. Like, so that can be, the point of entry. The port of entry for people that want to know something about this New Orleans music. That can be the place. And I just hope that, all the funding and everything comes through on the state and they realize what an asset it can be.
The flagpole of it.
The flagpole of Jazz Fest. Like the flagpole at Jazz Fest, the Louisiana Music and Heritage Experience can be the flagpole of the whole New Orleans music community.
So anybody, can you tell folks how they can help you out, or how they can reach you, how anything that you want to tell anybody?
Yeah, I mean, my email's out there, kspera@theadvocate.com, which is, from when we were the New Orleans Advocate, when the Picayune, the Advocate from Baton Rouge came into New Orleans, and New Orleans Advocate, and twists and turns, and now it's all owned by John George's. Yep. But we still have the Advocate email addresses. So it's kspera@theadvocate.com. Yeah, I'm always interested in story ideas, or, tips, or whatever you got.
Man, you are a New Orleans living legend and icon, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Keith Spera, thank you so much, Keith. If I had a million tongues, as they say, I could not thank you enough, my brother.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, man. It was so much fun. It really was. I feel like a musician. It was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a good gig. It was a good gig.
All right, guys, share, like, and subscribe to Only Good Vibes News Network. You're going to see illustrious guests like this all the time. And thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate it, brother.
My pleasure.
Who dat?
Walking